everyone, thank you so much for joining me today. So in today's card making video, we're going to be playing with our Gilding Flakes and we're going to be using them with an embossing folder and a homemade diffuser, and it creates a stunning effect. So I really hope that you enjoy this one today. I'm going to be using Gilding Flakes from IndigoBlu called Chariot of Fire. I've got their FlitterGlu, which is a tacky glue. I've got a sponge and a palette knife, and then I've got this beautiful Tapestry embossing folder from Gina Designs. It's a 2D embossing folder, but any embossing folder that you've got will work for this technique. So first of all, I'm going to mask off a strip on the card. I want a strip that measures 1.5 inches because that's the size of the diffuser that we're going to make today. And so I'm just going to mask off the areas just so that I've got that strip showing. I'm then going to add some of the tacky glue to this sponge. So you could use other brands of tacky glue for this, but you need to make sure that the glue is a tacky glue and not a normal glue because you need it to stay sticky so that those gilding flakes can stick onto that. And then we're just going to use the sponge like you would an ink pad to ink up that area with the glue. So once we've done that, we will just need to let the tacky glue dry for a moment, and so we're going to make our diffuser in the meantime. So I've got some strips of white card. They all measure 1.5 inches wide because obviously that's going to be the strip that we want to emboss. And then the length is slightly longer than my card panel today. So you just want to make sure that the length of card you choose will cover your card panel. Otherwise the diffuser will only emboss the area where the diffuser's catching. So yeah, you can make this work for your project. You could do different shapes. You could do a heart, a star, an oval, a hexagon, whatever you've got in your stash. Again, you just die cut, say 4 to 9 hexagons, glue them all together, and then you've got a homemade diffuser. I just started out with 4 strips because I've made diffusers before and 4 worked fine. However, I did end up needing 9 strips to get the correct pressure today. And I think that's because I'm just embossing a very thin strip, so the pressure needed to be concentrated in that area. So once they're all stuck together and the tacky glue has dried, you'll know it's dry because you'll see it's gone a bit more clear and less creamy. We can then go ahead, remove that low tack tape and then attach our Gilding Flakes. Now I'm being a little bit picky here because I'm trying to pick out bigger flakes so that I can then lay them down carefully and smooth them out with my finger, just so that I can get a really smooth finish with the Gilding Flakes. This isn't necessary for the technique, but whatever works for you is absolutely fine. And I'm just making sure that all of the areas with the tacky glue are nice and covered with the Gilding Flakes. Once we've covered all of that strip with the flakes, we can then go ahead and buff it up using a paintbrush. So instead of using the scoochy tool, which I normally use, I'm just using a paintbrush today. That means that I can be careful to avoid scratching the Gilding Flakes. Sometimes I'm a little bit heavy-handed with the scoochy foam and it does take off some of the shine if you're not careful. So I find just using a paintbrush today means that I'll keep lots of that shine ready for the technique. And it is just so pretty. I really love using Gilding Flakes because you just get an effect that you can't get with anything else. You could of course do something similar with embossing powders, but yeah, the finish you get with Gilding Flakes is just that little bit different. So I've got my 6 Big Shot machine here and I'm just using the base plate, and then I've got the embossing folder and I'm just carefully lining up my card panel on the embossing folder. I really want to get that lovely flourish across the whole strip of the gold, so I'm just lining it up nice and carefully, and then we can place that on the base plate. Next, I'm going to add the diffuser. So you can see it's a lot thicker here. So there, all my layers stick together, and then I'm just going to lay it over the gold strip carefully. Then I'm going to add my top plate or my cutting plate, and then we're going to run that through the die cutting machine. And what you'll get is you'll just get the embossed area where the diffuser is. So that's why it's important your diffuser's thick enough so that you don't get pressure where you don't want embossing. And as we open up this folder, you can see you've got that beautiful embossed gilded strip on your card panel. Now where it's gone over slightly, you can just about see that. I've got a couple of tips for that. You can use your bone fold to just push it out of the card, and this works really, really great. I'll show you how that looks at the end. The other thing that you could do is make your diffuser slightly smaller than the strip that you've used, and then that way, where the extra pressure kind of goes over the edges a little bit, it will just finish embossing your panel. And so I'd probably recommend just taking off 1/4 inch if you're going to try that. But as you can see, using a bone fold, it removes it beautifully. Another technique that you could use if you just want to finish it off a little bit more neatly is to pull out your scoreboard. So I've got my scoreboard here, and I've turned the panel over because I want the raised lines on the other side, and I'm just going to score either side of that embossed panel, and that just finishes it off beautifully as well. So a couple of suggestions there, lots of different ways that you could do this, but I just think it looks so pretty. So to finish this off into a card, I'm going to go ahead and glue it down to a matte layer of black cardstock. And then I've got this beautiful stamp set from Gina Designs. This is called Smiling Blooms. And I really want to use that small flourish in the top left. And then one of these sentiments from the stamp set. And I have got the coordinating dies for this stamp set, so we're going to be able to cut them out really nicely. So I'm just going to stamp them out on a scrap of white cardstock. I'm using some Verstafine Clair Nocturne black ink. And then once we've stamped those out, we can use the coordinating dies to cut them out. I like to use the dies to cut them out first, so that if I make any mistakes with the die and lining it up, I've not spent all that time colouring first and then messed it up at the end. So that's just something I like to do. So to colour my images today, I'm just using my Winsor & Newton Cotman pan watercolour set. I absolutely love this. I know watercolouring isn't for everybody, but I prefer it to colour images just because it's quick and easy to get colour down. I find that watercolours are quite forgiving as well. And obviously you just need to make sure that if you are using watercolours that your ink is waterproof. So I know the Verstafine Clair is waterproof ink, so I can watercolour with it. And I'm not using any speciality cardstock today. This is just Craft UK white card that I've got that I used to stamp the images onto. So once the image is dry, I'm going to go ahead and attach my layers down to a card blank. This is a US A2 card blank that I'm working on today. And I'm going to pop a little bit of frame tape on the back of that little flourish. Just to give it a little bit of dimension. I really didn't want to cover up too much of the strip, but I really felt that I needed to cover up some of it in order to be able to finish the card. So yeah, just that flourish is just enough on the left hand side, and then I'm popping the sentiment down in the bottom right again on a little bit of frame tape. I've got a few little flat back sequins from A Colourful Life Designs. These are in the matte black colour, and these are just flat sequins. They don't have the hole in the middle, and I'm just using a wax pencil just to kind of move them around a little bit, and then a little bit of quick grab glue to finish. And then that is the finished card for today. So thank you so much for joining me today. I really hope that you've enjoyed this tutorial. I hope that it's helped you to see ways that you can extend the use of your embossing folders and how you can use them with Gilding Flakes. As always, all the products that I've used will be linked in the description box below. And please don't forget to hit the thumbs up button if you've enjoyed this tutorial. It really helps me out. If you're not subscribed, then I'd really appreciate you considering subscribing to my channel. And I will look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care.